and welcome back to The Way of the Wandering Wizard. I am Robert Andrew Meredith Kennedy, and I am a pure and open channel for the finest vibrations of divine love and light, made manifest here in service to Gaia and those who travel with her. Well, in my last little videoette, I was waxing lyrical about joining the noble tribe of the Bang It and Bend It merchants, as the EOD section was known at the time. We were an eccentric bunch. I mean, clearly I was the sanest, most normal of the lot of them. We were a collection of beards, ponytails, people that had really walked the walk. The section I joined had early pioneers of bomb disposal, certainly in Northern Ireland. Legends. They've written books that tell their story far better than I can. But it genuinely was joining a section of just like minds. We were focused on our job. The only way that you learnt the job was to basically study with somebody who'd done the job. And so I started a rather quick apprenticeship, or in-depth apprenticeship, into the noble arts of bomb disposal, or how to perform a controlled explosion. You try stopping it halfway through and then go, no, I've changed my mind. The art of EOD. Well, several schools, without breaking any secrets that haven't already been well published in many books, it had its origins in, quite literally, with stethoscopes. World War II, in pits, listening and disarming. And that aspect of bomb disposal continues to this day. That was not really the work that I was involved in. The second technique is to find it and basically cover it in sandbags, apply a large chunk of white noise or plastic explosives to the side of it, and make it go bang when it's in a safer position. And although I did a fair bit of that, certainly cleared a few ranges in my time, cleared a few oops, that didn't go bang, but that was part of my job. So I did a bit of that. The bulk of our job was the explosives ordnance disposal. And that's basically using energetic materials to make a bomb or a terrorist device fall to pieces slightly quicker than it can function itself. Move it apart and thereby making it safe, where clever people can scoop up all the bits and work out what it was all about. It's not the kind of thing that you can really learn from a book. You have to sort of go down a range with old experienced hands and have a play. What will this do? Try it. What will that do? We'll see. It really was learning on the job, and they are genuinely 16, no, not quite the end, but the early part was some of the happiest days of my life. I had a real sense of purpose. And I say again, from this position, maybe not at the time, but from this, where I sit talking to you now, my work was focused on defeating the device. The big political agenda behind it, while we're aware of it, was not my motivator. At core, my issue was this. We're all entitled to our viewpoints, our beliefs, our ways of looking at the world, as unique as they may be. Mine certainly is. I don't expect anybody to share it. If by observing it, it helps. But blowing people up, disrupting their lives, or taking your argument to innocents that really do not want to be involved in that fight was something that I do and did fundamentally disagree with. The use of violence to solve a problem has been with us since we crawled out of caves. It's a part of human existence. I'm wise enough and old enough and been through enough to know that. But the cost of these actions that are still ongoing now in my life, in people I know, people who I recently sat down with dinner with, that years later in the conflict, it still affects people's lives. My little reason for trying to do something to stop it. Anyway, excuse that little impassioned moment of why I chose that job, why I chose that work. In time, working as a second man, you pick up enough skills until eventually you go and do your driving test and you become a firing officer. And that was a big tick in my own personal career path. I enjoyed being outdoors, I enjoyed being on the range, I enjoyed being hands-on, being an explosive engineer, using a mind to solve problems. How quickly can we take this apart? How can we do this? How can we do that? I have to say I fitted in quite well, I think. Most of them still remember me. I don't know why. Actually I do, but I can't tell you. But yes, what days. What days. I spent my days in an office were rare. We were generally out in a marsh somewhere, almost invariably, or windswept part of the UK, generally looking at a rather large hole in the ground, which we just made, or ideally not a very large hole in the ground, where we'd done it even better. It's practical work, it's hard work, enjoyable work. Yes, of course there's an element of risk. I mean, it's not everybody that goes to work and you know, if I made a mistake when I was doing my bit at the sharp end, well, I wouldn't know much about it, but I'd certainly feel guilty because of the people around us. It does focus you, focuses a mind, focuses on a task. And at the time I was true science. I followed a very deep scientific viewpoint on life. All my brain kicking up. As I said, apart from a lot of time actually in quite beautiful places at the time with some amazing wildlife, which I really wish that I'd looked at the time. At the time I was focused on the job, getting the job done, working away and invariably going and eating a rather large meal and then hitting the pub. If anything, just to calm down from just an intense and busy day. They're a good group, lifelong friends. And we had some fantastic evenings. Definitely tales for a fireside, and one that I'd have to get their permission, or ideally their presence. Maybe their stories for us, and not ones to be shared publicly. A collective sigh of relief from those who worked with me now. It was good work. As I said, I was away. I was married at the time. I was probably spending more time away. Any time that any work came up, we were off to it. So that each day that I woke up, just ready for the day, knew what I was going to do, where I was going to go, what I was going to achieve. And they were exciting times to live in for me. And I have to say, I think I thrived. I really did. I had a sense of purpose and knew who I was. Well, that was my day job. Clearly on the weekends I had long hair and I went off to rock gigs and just generally lived the life of a bit of a rocker biker, if I'm honest. But those were my days. The early days at Fort Halstead, learning the noble art. So we did lots of trials. So I can't mention the details, but basically the game within the section is this. If you're going to defeat something that a terrorist may make, you need somebody to play terrorist and somebody to play not terrorist. And that cat and mouse game is pretty much what engaged me most of the time. Either we'd be making or we'd be defeating. We got quite good at it. Very good at it. We were invited up to work in multi-discipline teams all over the country. Good days, good work. My favourite roles was being posted up to Scotland for weeks on end, on trials versus fortifications. Now, basically sound military practice. If you're going to build something, then you have to make sure that you can't shoot holes in it. The idea of the fortification is to keep whoever's in it safe. We've been doing this for a long time. Well, my lord, if my cannon won't put a hole in it, I doubt whether anyone else's will. For me as a Kennedy, being posted back up there, I was back in the land of my blood. I'd grown up proud of my Scottish lineage. It's good to be back in the area. I'm quite literally in the clan seat. Well, obviously, Englishmen weren't always welcome in the pub of an evening. I have to say, I can certainly remember probably wearing a kilt at Burns supper and being the only one in a kilt in the entire restaurant. But I was that proud. Still am. Still wear a kilt. Most of those trials, really, what days. We were on a good way of earning money then. We were given a small sum of money each night by the government to stay away. If wisely invested, if you shared a room, didn't mind the farts and curry and God knows what we used to live through, you could make enough money to come home with some cash for your missus and have a bloody good time while you were there. I'd clearly discovered beer at college and clearly excelled in my drinking of beer. Many a happy night dancing on bar stools, and then basically away, a night's sleep, sort your head out with a good breakfast, focus and back on the job again. Way of dealing with the stress, I didn't think it at the time, I was just living my dream. Absolutely loved my life. A lot of our work was supporting the bomb disposal work that was going on, particularly in Ireland at the time. It was the focus of a lot of, certainly our work. And on one wondrously life-changing day, I was called into my boss's office. Would I like to go and do a tour in Northern Ireland, attached as a civil servant, basically to the Scientific Advisors Department? It was a 3-month tour. The overtime was crazy. It was a chance to actually get out there and see what the lads were doing, see what it was like, live that life. Was I likely to take that at 25? Of course I was. And so I will do a brief wizardly tour through the joys of the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Heavily edited, of course. Thank you for listening to a slightly drifty ramble through some wondrous years in a wizard's life. As well as reminiscing. So what did I learn most? Because this is about a journey as well. It was really how these teams forge. The preamble, as barbarous as war is, the bonds that are formed under those kind of pressures are barely understood by many. As I said, clearly, as I drift slightly, forgive me, those bonds are strong bonds. So there is something about working under those kind of pressures in a team where each of our actions are absolutely reliant on keeping each other safe, working well together. I don't remember, apart from a few general arguments about the standard stuff, religion, politics, football, and who could make a bigger bang. That team working, which is absolutely fundamental to human existence, the fact that you can't do it on your own, that we're reliant on each other, that you need to have everybody pulling together with a strong goal. Just a lesson that maybe in a world that's become a little bit more separated of late, we might be worth reconsidering. So, forgive me ending a lovely reminiscence through the early days of my life. And I will probably have another little pause before I do the Northern Ireland bit. let's just say some things can be a little bit more current every now and again. And an old wizard learns when to wind in his way. Thank you as always for listening. Go well and blessed be.